Alright guys, welcome back to Game and Compute. Today on the pod, I want to talk about I just want to vent. I know I'm not going to be venting about things that, I'm the only one venting about. So, let's vent. I want to vent about platforms. I want to vent about platforms, changing the bar for people. I don't know if I want to break them down into different issues, but I would say I want to start with Spotify. Spotify for podcasters is, it's definitely changed. So once the month of October hit, the monetization criteria had changed from the month before, which basically that means that in the month of September you would have needed to get 1,000 listeners compared to before you would have needed to get 100 listeners. And before that point, so that change was made in April to have to get 100 listeners. Before that point, when Anchor.fm was in charge, you were pretty much monetized automatically. You already had RPMs, CPMs, and you just had a steady trickle of funds coming in based on your traffic. So for people who don't know, Spotify for podcasters used to be Anchor.fm. I don't know if I'm describing this properly, but basically, I think Anchor.fm was actually owned by Spotify. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was basically its own platform. It was kind of like how Meta owns Instagram, but it's like Instagram's its own platform, right? I think it was kind of similar to that. Like, it had its own thing. It wasn't that much connected. But now, I started podcasting in 2020. So fast forward to, I've talked about this before, so I'm going to briefly just go in order of that timeline. Brief. Fast forward from 2020 when I started, and mind you, Anchor.fm was around before that. I don't know how long before that, but I discovered it in 2020. It was the first thing that popped up for me when I was trying to start podcasting, and it was easy. The user interface was easy. I could use it with my phone. It was fast. It worked. It was fine. The glitch issues aren't any different. It's always just a Wi-Fi thing. So every so often when I'm recording directly into the app, like right now, if my Wi-Fi settings change or my connection changes, I tend to keep it on 5G now, but if I keep it on my household Wi-Fi, since it's pretty spotty, my Wi-Fi in the house is pretty spotty, sometimes it'll shut off, and then if that happens during the process of recording through the actual app, sometimes it'll shut me out. It won't save the episode. It'll be somewhere in my phone, but I think I've only once maybe revived one of those episodes once, maybe. I don't really know. There's a way to export it as some file and look at it on your computer or on the other audio app, but I don't think I've ever fully gotten a direct fix for that. So I've lost a few episodes here and there, but I really don't think it's been enough to deter me from using it altogether, if that makes sense, So that happened, but yeah, things were flowing smoothly. Like I said, I had 4 podcasts, they were all making money just by me posting. I used to post every day, and, the money would just be rising and rising, like a little bit at a time. The more I posted, the longer things had been up, the more money would start coming in. At one point, I did pay for some kind of traffic through Fiverr, and I don't think it really worked too much for the monetary situation. It's hard to really track because I only really did it like once, and I think it was on 2 of the pods, and so I don't really know for sure how much how much paying for traffic really helped. I really don't know how much it really helped, because it wasn't a consistent process. But I'd say it did boost traffic, and that did boost some of the the money. April 2023 rolls around, excuse me, and we start seeing weird changes. Anchor.fm, or maybe it was before, I think it was April. Anchor.fm is now Spotify for podcasters. So the first thing I noticed, the app is different. Like the app thumbnail is different. It looks like the Spotify app, but instead of being green, it's purple. I think Anchor.fm was purple as well. It looks like it absorbed, Anchor.fm, Megaphone, and something else. Because when you go to log in, you pick, where are you coming from? Which platform are you coming from? And so you could kind of integrate one of those 3. And then from then on, you had to have, a login. And they started this process of monetization, which meant all the money you were getting to your Stripe account before April 2023, all that money that I was getting from 2020, almost 2 to 3 years of money, just wasn't there. Like one day it was there, one day it wasn't. I don't remember getting any notifications about it. I might have had notifications that maybe I ignored because I used to get so many emails that were so like weird, like markety kind of emails, that I just kind of like never really was paying too much attention to the emails from Anchor. So, and mind you, I had 4 podcasts, and so they were all attached to different emails, and so I would always get the same email for every every podcast. So usually when I would check all of my inbox on my phone, I'd see like 4 emails just like stacked from like Anchor or Spotify or whatever it was, and I would usually just don't get too much into them. So that came and went, getting 100, you had to get 100. I mean, there's a whole process, but you can look it up. I'm not going to talk about it too much. You basically had to get 100 listeners within 30 days to stay monetized, and then you had to keep, before the month ended, typically, like you could wait till the new month started, but before the month ended, you usually had to post the new ad, a host read ad. You would be eligible for that host read ad, and you would read it, record it, read it, post it, just like you did with Anchor.fm. But the Anchor.fm ad had originally stayed the same. Unless I would have changed it, it would have stayed the same. So Anchor.fm was just being monetized through their own ad. That leveled up through Spotify now having a criteria, because Anchor.fm didn't really have a criteria. At least if they did, it wasn't that stringent, because I was making money on there and I wasn't really doing much but just posting every day almost during the Rona. Almost every day, not every day, almost. So that came and went. So if you think April 2023 through September 2023, September is when I see like, hey, something changed, it looks like now we need to get 1,000 listeners, unique listeners per month, per 30-day period. And I was like, oh man, that's a lot. have to get just to be able to qualify for the host read ad, because that's how you're getting monetized through Spotify, through host read ads. So the monetization experience with Spotify for podcasters, they have the host read ad option. They also have a subscription option where you can subscribe. You can ask your listeners to subscribe to your podcast, and you get in return, a certain number of, paid amount of money per people who opt into that. But you have to offer it. I don't offer it. I could, but I right now I'd rather just give this information for free. I feel like usually I'm not recording when I'm at my full best. I don't edit. I just post when I feel like it. It's kind of free-flowing content. Sometimes I'm drained, sometimes I'm tired, sometimes I'm hyper, sometimes I'm busy, sometimes it's like bad quality. So I don't think that I would feel comfortable charging for that. I mean, if somebody wanted to buy it, okay, that's up to them, but I feel like I don't think I would put more editing efforts and quality efforts into my content because my efforts are going elsewhere right now. Like, I don't want to spread myself too thin, if you understand what I'm saying. It's not that I don't care. It's just, it seems a little risky for my time and energy for something that I don't know how that would pan out. And I like doing stuff for free. This is kind of like, it's like, okay, like you can listen for free. I feel comfortable with that. I mean, a lot of people are already paying for freaking Spotify as it is, just so you don't have ads in Spotify. So I would feel weird, like, making people subscribe to me after you've already subscribed. I mean, I know there is that, like, go get it, Now, I think if I do start having lessons or classes or some type of lectures, I mean, I kind of talk in a weird lecture style anyways, but I don't really focus. I am kind of all over the place, and I know that about myself. Because this is very unscripted, but I am used to giving presentations about information and, not speeches, but like, I come from the world of psychology and, county psychology. A lot of times, we give presentations about our clients to our treatment teams. So the doctors and nurses and, the psychiatrists and the, all the staff, supervisors and everybody involved can kind of understand what's going on with some of the cases, either all the cases or the complex cases or the new intakes or whatever. Usually the person who gives the intake or the update or the risk assessment or the hospital discharge follow-up or whatever it is, you would present it at a meeting based on protocol. And so I'm used to giving presentations about things, and I like doing it. I like talking about things, giving presentations, teaching about things. I enjoy that, but unless I'm doing something that I think is unique enough that you can't just Google it and find it elsewhere, I don't quite think I'm gonna record that and I don't think I would do something to make people subscribe unless it was something that was really education based. Then I would consider it. Like if it was like some kind of whiteboard lecture, tutorial, something like that. I've considered it, but for now it's not in the stars for now. But that's why I don't use this subscription. That's my honest reason, because I feel like I'd be ripping people off. I don't think I'd pay for the content that I provide. I do think it's valuable, but it's so free-flowing and like, I'm rambling about whatever, and the fact that I don't edit and I don't want to spend time editing. I'd rather just have it be like a quick, sometimes I always mean them to be quick, but they tend to be pretty lengthy. But yeah, I don't offer subscriptions for that reason, at least not at this time. That could change. And, I am exploring different ideas, but content creation, guys, it's a beast. It takes a lot of your time. It takes a lot of your energy. So unless I actually have a plan in place where I'm going to be posting, at least for a 30-day period where I have like a plan that I've created, it's really hard for me to kind of get behind, just doing little bits and pieces of content, because I really do get blocks, creativity blocks. Like when I don't post on here, it's because I have nothing to post, I try not, I've had times where I tried to make it up, but now I'm like, if I'm not really passionate about posting something, I just wait until there's something that comes up in my life personally. This has been coming up with me with freaking Spotify. So yeah, if you are trying to monetize your podcast, those are two methods that are available. If you're brand new, you're going to have to get the traffic to qualify, and that's within 30 days. And then once you qualify in 30 days, you have to post the ad and then see how that ad does for 30 days. And every 30 days they reevaluate that. So now you have to have at least 1,000 unique listeners. Unless you offer a subscription that people pay for that subscription, you aren't making any more money through Spotify. And there are other types of ads. I think you can get different sponsored ads through Spotify, I believe. I don't recall exactly what those are, but you can. But I just want to mention, I guess my frustration is I'm used to problem solving. I'm used to that. I'm used to, looking at a situation that changes with an algorithm or some other kind of thing on a platform, which isn't out of the norm. There's always going to be a platform that's like, we do this now and screw all the other people or the way they were doing it. You can't make money unless you follow what we say. So, some things are too good to be true. That's kind of how it was with Spotify. Everything was free flowing and easy for a really long time. But I think my biggest frustration right now is that, if you do a quick Google search on how to make money podcasting, how to make money specifically with Spotify for podcasters, you can find details on how to make money as a musician on Spotify, but it's really hard to find actual details about how to improve with traffic and everything on your Spotify for podcasters channel. So I do want to create content around that. I just don't want to only focus on that. I mean, there was a guy, Henry G, who, if you YouTube search Henry G Anchor.fm or Henry G Anchor Podcast, he is probably the first person and best person that I heard talk about Anchor and Spotify, because remember it changed, the Anchor and Spotify podcast platform. But he has stopped doing his recordings about those topics. And so, he's listed a lot of his frustrations. He talked a lot about how he made money on, Anchor, I guess on Spotify. Once it changed over, he kind of talked about that a little bit too. But he didn't have a whole lot of content, but the content he had was good. It was quite repetitive, but it was helpful. He explained, and others explain this too, because when you read through best practices for podcasting, others explain this too. So he explained, you want to get sponsorships or sell a product, your own product or service through your podcast. And basically you're monetized outside of Spotify at that point. Like, you're using Spotify and you might be monetized on there, and your traffic might be coming from other sources, because that's a way to get traffic, is to, promote your content through other, social media. Through not cold pages. You want like warm pages. There's nothing wrong with that. And trying to basically just, record, post, and not really relying so much on the, host read ads or the eligibility criteria for Spotify at this point, but rather trying to rely more on selling your services. And so if you're selling something, you can sell whatever it is that you're doing through your podcast, because people are there to listen. Usually they're like-minded people who have interest in whatever it is you're saying. So they're going to tune in, and they go on there to you. And, they're likely to find some worth out of what it is that you have to offer. Now, I'm not saying like do some spammy thing. I'm just saying, like, if you actually do offer a service, like say for Henry G, he talked a lot about mindset, positivity, things like that. And he actually did some form of like coaching or consulting, where he would get on calls with people. And so he was explaining that he made most of his money that way. And, Spotify / Anchor, and at one point I think he was using Megaphone, but he explained how expensive that was. So he recommended people don't go the Megaphone route, because then you're basically losing thousands of dollars a month, because you have to pay for it. I don't really know. I haven't firsthand used it, but just going by his method, I did notice it's just frustrating that there aren't a lot of methods out there that you can follow, And whenever you look up stuff about podcasts, it's always like general, like, just like I said, like, oh, subscriptions, oh, YouTube, this and that, and like, put your podcast on YouTube, because that's a, search engine, and put your, get your affiliate links and put it in your, episode, show notes, and, basically, just like Henry G, put your, your coaching options, in your podcast material, explain what you do for your services, and people might come to you. So I'm not gonna say that it's easy, That's one thing I just wanted to say, is I'm a little baffled by the fact that Spotify for Podcasters is one of the bigger podcasts out there, podcast platforms. It's competitive with Apple Podcasts. It does actually share your podcast on multiple platforms, which is a good key, and it's still free to use. So you would think there'd be a lot more content about how to actually do well, and there's really not. There's nothing. There's hardly anything at all on YouTube other than Henry G. So way back when Anchor used to do, and this will be the last thing I say on here about this, but and then the episode I'll be ending soon, but way back, Anchor.fm, when they had their monetization process, remember how I explained that they had their own ad that you had to make for, basically that's how you would monetize. All you did was like record the ad. It was a host read ad, and you just put the ad in every episode, and as your traffic would increase, so would the monetary side of things. So I did see some YouTube videos early on people trying to like promote Anchor.fm that way and getting some traffic by putting that ad out there. It was like an ad, it was like a form of ad that they were doing. But other than that, really, I really haven't seen a full comprehensive method. Like, other than using it to promote your own services, getting people to subscribe. And I'm almost skeptical about the subscriptions through Spotify for podcasters. I don't really know what I'm talking about from firsthand experience at this moment, but just the way that they're changing so fast. Like I mentioned, April, things all of a sudden changed. Like since at least 2020, things have been exactly the same up until this year. And then within a few months later, they changed again, So they notified us in September about this big change, about needing more traffic. And then in April, we were kind of like, I was blindsided by them changing from Anchor.fm to Spotify for podcasters, and then having this 100 listeners monetization criteria, because they didn't have a monetization criteria before when they were just Anchor.fm. So, and have this like monthly process where you have to qualify every month and then re-record your ad every month or before the new month, so that when the new month hits, you can have your new ad ready to post and you're not wasting any time in case they have to review it or something. But yeah, it's frustrating. That's kind of my biggest frustration right now. Not just this platform, but all the platform changes, but this is one of the more annoying ones for me. So, at the moment, that's all I kind of have to say about this. I think there's opportunity to create some valuable content, because there isn't any out there, right now. Other than Henry G's stuff, and his stuff is old now because he hasn't updated it since he said he wasn't going to update it too. So I'm not like faulting him. I'm just saying he didn't update it, and unless he chooses to do so, all of the information is from the last change. It's not from the current change of what's going on since October of 2023 hit. So, guys, I hope this was helpful. Some good food for thought. If you're starting to podcast on Spotify for podcasters, these are some things to consider. I don't know what platform would really be better. The fact that this platform is free is great, but things are quickly shifting. I've seen other platforms like Medium for blogging, change so that now people do have to pay a small $5 a month subscription fee, whereas before they didn't. And like I mentioned, when you do use Spotify itself for like music or whatever, when you do pay for that subscription, it is, money every month to pay for that as well. So if you're listening to podcasts or listening to music and you don't want ads in the middle of your stuff, you're gonna pay. Kind of same with YouTube, you're gonna pay. So with that, hopefully come back around. Hopefully this was helpful, and thanks for listening.